Are you sure I don't
Here we
see
are.
us? I don't see us.
It says so right there. Ladies and gentlemen.
Hit it.
Oh, yeah. Hit it. Old school. Drinks with the Clarks. Come on, people, you're missing the song. There we are, 3 people.
I'd be clapping along. I mean, you're part of the party there.
Cheers. Love you. Woo!
All right.
The studio audience is going crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live version of A Couple of Drinks with the Clarks. We, of course, are the Clarks. I am Matt, and this is my wife.
Excited.
And right over, wait a minute, I'm going to do it there right over there.
Oh, yeah,
See,
there he is.
See, it's not as easy.
Look, mine goes, I thought mine actually went
it doesn't
into the
poke.
purple.
It doesn't poke upon it. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Founder of my secret weapon in the cocktail game, Adam Kraft from Elevator Craft, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo!
Woo!
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Nice, huh? So, Adam, I got to tell you, we've done 170 shows.
Wow.
You, I believe, are 171.
I think so.
And we've had some mishaps with the old school shakers. And listen, between the two of us, there's probably like a 26-year bartender between the two of us. And we still got stuff stuck, frozen, leaking all over the table. And I can't thank you enough. So here's full disclosure. I think I talked about this when I talked with you and Mark, your brother.
Mm-hmm.
I kept seeing the guy with the Viking beard. And I always say that because it's a damn good looking beard.
He uses product.
Yeah, absolutely. His beard game is strong. He's a cocktail mixologist as well, right?
Yeah.
So he comes on, and the first, you guys are great with marketing. The first basically line out of his mouth is, "Your cocktail shaker sucks."
Yeah.
And
he's not wrong.
It totally does. It totally does. And you are a genius, my friend, because every person that I've showed this to, we went to a podcast on Monday, my wife and I, somebody in this vicinity was overserved. But we took this to our friend Johnny Spezzano, who does a podcast called Dinner at Johnny's, and we brought this over and I showed it to him. He's like, "Man, that guy's a genius."
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and the Christmas gifts that we know that people.
Yeah. So you were really
awesome.
nice enough to send us a couple of shakers.
Yep.
We did a couple contests during the holiday time, and we had one person who named our show sat here, and another person. How did they win the other one? I can't remember. It's been so long.
It was a
I have
like and
COVID
share
brain.
type.
Oh yeah. You had to like and share, and get us some more viewers and
Very
all that
cool.
stuff, because we are technically media whores. So, can you tell us a little bit about, as I'm yammering on, can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with the Elevator Craft hybrid cocktail shaker?
Yeah. Let's think where it began. So I think the products at Elevate Craft that we're working on all come together based around just making a lot of crappy drinks back in the day. So basically I got really into beer. I was homebrewing beer and buying like expensive equipment and everything, and sort of got out of that hobby and got into cocktails. And whenever I did that, I was at the time just basically drinking like rum and cokes and like margarita, just like the old like pour some margarita mix in a cup and kind of eyeball your tequila in there and stab it with a straw.
It's the only way to go.
I'm the type that whenever I get into something, I really want to get into it. So I did that with beer, and then I started doing it. And at some point I did that with like cold brew coffee for a while.
Oh, cool.
And then I got into cocktails. And whenever I got into cocktails, it was basically the same story you guys have. You use a shaker, and I'm like, well, this kind of sucks. And then I started buying like more expensive ones, and they all did the same thing. And my background's a product designer. And so I looked at them like, what can I do to solve this problem, basically? And I wanted to make my own product. So for 6 or 7 years, I was a product design consultant. And so I designed tons of different things. And so this was the one part where I came up with the name Elevated Craft. My last name is Craft. It felt really good. The name worked. I'm like, okay, I think I can make a better cocktail shaker. But it literally took like 2 years to make it, even though I'm a professional designer. Yeah. There's a big difference between being a consultant designer and just kind of designing something for somebody and shipping it off to a factory and not dealing with all the other stuff that comes after that, to really putting your own product out there. So I read in the design process, I probably read a couple thousand reviews and just looked for the trends that I saw and tried to solve each one of those problems. But it took a long time.
Well, the whole home cocktail craze has really, I don't mean to plug, but has elevated itself as far as people using better ingredients, people using, it's not just the usual tequila and some generic triple sec to make a margarita. Now they're using, stuff like Cabo Wabo, Espolon, all the really, better tequilas, and they're also using Grand Marniers and the dry curacao and stuff like that. So they're using better ingredients. And why wouldn't you want to use something like this that's going to save your cocktail? So I fell into the same trap that you did, as far as like, all right, so I went on Amazon and I bought like a copper one, and then I bought a glass one because I noticed it had like a like just a little rubber gasket around the glass part, and that thing leaked too. And I'm like, what the hell? So finally, after seeing your commercial probably a half a dozen to 3 dozen times, so it worked. So I bought one, and I'm like, Patty, this is the greatest thing in the world. And she wouldn't believe me because I would shake the drink.
Oh my God.
Like this at her. She's like, that's going to come apart. I'm like, honey, there's no way. This is gonna come
magic
apart.
trick.
It is a true fear when somebody has a shaker in front of your face, just really shaking it at you.
Yeah.
And as a previous bartender, I know that those things just don't stay on.
Yeah.
They don't.
Well, especially if you've made, egg white cocktails and it has the positive pressure side of things, then it pops off and makes a big mess.
Yeah,
so,
it's awful.
I mean, it's been a really interesting journey going from designing the shaker and then getting it into so many people's hands and just needing to learn the different kind of quirks, because it is why I started calling it a hybrid shaker, is because if you come from a bartending background, it's totally different experience than if you've been using like just traditional cobbler shakers and you're used to them kind of getting frozen together or freezing your hand, and you've kind of like gotten used to that frozen hand thing. Then you have to educate that you don't have to do that. You just shake for 15 seconds, you get equilibrium inside, you're at your max chill. But there's all kinds of cool quirks and things that I've learned from just our customer base. And you're part of the Elevated Craft crew on our private Facebook group, and I watch all the things there. And we've collectively gathered these like tips and tricks from just thousands of people making cocktails now.
Right.
So there's just so many cool little quirks, because it does have threads, so that's what keeps it from popping apart. But something that we learned over time was, like, with egg whites, a lot of people like to dry shake first without any ice.
Yep.
And then if you go to take the big top off, it's harder, so you have to bleed the pressure. So you have to pop the pressure and then go to take the big top off, and it comes apart fine. But as somebody prior to learning that, I didn't do a lot of dry shaking of egg white cocktails. I usually I'll build the whole cocktail and I'll use like a larger ice cube in there.
Right.
And it's fine for me. But there's all these cool quirks that you learn from just having a different type of product that you guys have probably unlocked as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cool thing is the gaskets and the fact that you guys sell extra ones, because we lost one.
Right.
And it happened during one of our shows. I didn't realize that the top was gone, and I was doing measuring it out and stuff. And I said, "Listen,
Wait a
folks,
second.
yeah, I mean, hey, listen, it happens." But
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about it is we've never, up until maybe a few shows ago, done a cocktail with egg white in it. It's always been, oh boy, oh no. So we did a show with Adam Edwards at Rabbit Hole, and also Ashley Angel. She's their head bartender mixologist, and she came up with this cocktail that we made with her, and we were both like, oh boy, we're so nervous, but it made the cocktail so luxurious.
Oh yeah.
That it was like, wow, that's cool. We've been missing that for so long. And the cool thing, actually, the Kabe Zamanian was hiding in the wings. He's the owner of Rabbit Hole, so he popped on our show too. So you're in the elite status with Kabe being on our show as the owner and founder. So listen, because you are the owner and founder, I made a short video in your honor. Would you like to see it?
Oh wow, yeah. Let's see it.
I'm gonna have to move away from camera. So I'm still getting used to this.
Oh, apparently we don't have a mouse that works well unless we move.
I hope it's the animated GIFs on the corner, but of my face, and it just
I know, right?
pulses on the screen for the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple of drinks to the Clark's exclusive. You ready? And action.
We have some Sky citrus vodka. We have some Grand Marnier orange liqueur. We have some cranberry juice and some fresh frozen lime.
Yeah, that's scary with the glass too. It's just like
It happens to the Rock too. I mean, this is out there.
yeah, that's hilarious.
Which
Like, what do you have?
Don't quit now! Holy shit! Oh, it works. Oh, you gotta quit. Almost had an aneurysm there. Live television, folks. You know us.
Oh,
we're
that
one
would be
takers.
why.
Isn't that
Yeah.
beautiful?
that would be the video that
Beautiful graphics.
That's where the purchase came into play. That's why
that's where the purchase came into
running that.
play.
that your shaker sucks thing just forever. Yeah. It's the gift that keeps on
goodness.
giving.
Oh gosh.
great. I loved the Rock videos. I'm guessing he probably still does them, but on the Terramana side of things, he would do these live Instagram videos, and like every other time he would get it stuck.
Yes.
And one of the times I think I put something on the Elevate Craft Facebook crew and said like, hey, here's a link to the Rocks video. If you see this happen again, can you please just tag Elevated Craft and say, hey, you need a shaker? And we had like a couple hundred people.
Oh, that's
on
awesome.
there. But The Rock, he literally had, I think in the first 10 seconds, like 10,000 comments or something like that. But it was still hilarious. And it was like, wow, we really, it's just so cool to see that the shaker has become a tool for home bartending that people get behind, and will, they see things like The Rock and they'll send it to me and be like, can you believe this? He needs a shaker. It's just such a cool.
So true. It's so true. And listen, and then that was one of my comments one time. I'm like, listen, if Dwayne The Rock Johnson can't get it unstuck, a mere mortal is not going to get it unstuck. It was a miracle that I got that stupid Cosmo unstuck.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, the thing that you're fighting against is the vacuum that's created there. So like what I was talking about on bleeding the pressure, or burping the pressure on these, is kind of the same thing. The cool thing is we just have such an easy release valve at the top, because if you were to say leave a cocktail in this over the weekend, and you're basically, let's say there's some pineapple juice or something in there, it would be really hard to unscrew this part. And then you'll notice whenever you twist it, it'll actually go psst, and you'll
Yeah.
hear the pressure release,
Mhm.
and then it comes apart. So there's
Yeah.
kind of these little tricks of the trade, but whenever you don't have a release valve, or if you're using like a normal cobbler shaker and it gets stuck together, you can't release it in that
Yeah.
way. And
Yeah, you're
Right.
stuck.
so there's a pressure side of things. Yeah, it's just interesting. But I think one of the decisions I made early on when designing it was really to just focus on home bartending, because I wanted to make a product for myself. And I've never been a professional bartender in any way. I've worked at restaurants a lot, but never
Right.
bartending. And it felt like the Boston shaker is the most efficient shaker for a commercial bar. It's the
Right.
fastest. You can buy dozens of them. It doesn't matter if one ends up in the trash can. The manager's never going to notice,
Right.
just
Right.
because they're kind of dispensable. And
Yeah, and a lot of liquor companies give them to the
Right.
bars free too.
yeah, exactly.
Or used to anyway.
And I couldn't, I needed the gaskets in the design in order to make it function the way I needed it for my personal use. And I know that that's a conflict too with commercial bars. And so one of the things that has come up in the comments is like, why don't I see this at a cocktail bar? And it's, or like, just a fast-paced bar. It's like, well,
Right.
It makes sense. And I totally get it. So I've never tried to kind of defend it as a commercial bar tool,
Right.
even though there are some martini bars and stuff around that are using it, but it's a slower paced delivery
Yeah.
than trying to like whip out drinks.
I could
I
see
think-
that as a bottle club type,
Yeah.
tool. You know what I mean? The problem with that is in working in restaurants over the years, you do find that if there's anything that is cool at all, it grows feet and walks out the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
even if you had this at a bottle club where you could say, okay, here's $300 for a bottle of whatever, and you get the shaker and ice and mixer and things like that, that shaker would
Yeah.
go home. It'd
Yeah.
be in somebody's purse, probably broken up into 3 pieces so people wouldn't clank it together.
There you go. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
But
I'm
also,
glad you
I
guys
mean,
like it.
yeah, but I mean, if you're talking about like, are you talking about like he was talking about bars where you're actually seeing the bartenders do their tricks and all that stuff? You're a lot safer doing,
Well, yeah.
you're
I'm not spinning it. No.
no, but think about it, just makes sense. And the other thing too is as a bartender for years, former, this is the one thing I always say about your product is that I've never had a drink come out colder
Oh, nice.
than it does out of that
Yeah.
shaker. So you said earlier, is 15 seconds the shake? I mean, is that the shake time for like maximum?
Yeah. So there's
Really? So I've been shaking for like 30 minutes? No, I'm just kidding.
basically what you're trying to do is get everything to equilibrium. So you can only get it as cold as the ice.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
some people wonder, because it's vacuum insulated, do you get any dilution? But you do, relative to the temperature of the liquor that you're putting in there. So if
Gotcha.
you're putting in room temperature liquor, then you're going
Right.
to get a predictable amount of dilution. So an ounce and a half. And then at that point, you're just agitating it to get it chilled down.
Gotcha.
Anything past the 12 to 15 seconds is really for texture. So it's
Okay.
not like, but you can
Okay.
kind
I've
of
been making texture cocktails.
Yeah.
So egg white, pineapple juice, different things where there's like a mouthfeel. And let's say you're using like some sort of puree or something like that. You're probably going to have to shake that longer.
Sure.
But just, say a margarita.
Yeah, because honestly,
15 seconds, good to go.
I make my own simple syrups,
Yep.
and I do the 2 to 1s.
Uh-huh.
So
Sorry, I'm looking at questions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So what I do, obviously, so if it's an ounce of liquid, I'm putting 2 ounces by volume of
Yeah.
sugar.
Right.
So it lasts longer, and it makes I think it makes a better drink. You don't have to use as much either.
Yeah. And
So-
something
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was
No,
going
go
to say, to talk like about the dilution aspect of things, you can really dial it in based on the type of ice you're using too. So that's something I've thought a lot about and tested. And like if you're using a large cube, you have less surface area. Even though it's a large cube, you have less surface area, so there's less melt that's
Right.
typically going to happen. If you were to put like pebble ice in, it's going to melt. It's also not going to strain very well.
Right.
So there's kind of a balance there. And I've realized that some recipes or people will say, give it a really hard shake. And if you listen to that, then you might just be pulverizing your ice, and then you don't get a good pour out of the built-in strainer. So there's kind of a balance there. So I'll have serving ice at home, and that'll be like the nicer cubes, maybe a large cube, or I'll get Sonic ice, like the pebble ice.
Yeah.
I'll have that separate. And then I'll have I usually shake with the ice out of my refrigerator, but I know how it works, because refrigerator ice is typically softer, or freezer ice. The auto freezer ice is typically softer, because the job of that freezer is just to make as much ice as needed. And if it's sitting there for a long time, then it'll start to harden up. But if you go through a lot of freezer ice, then it's pumping out, whatever it is, 12 cubes every 30 minutes or something. Like it's just not going to be solid, like super dense. So you just kind of got to know that too. And that's something I've discovered in the crew page, where like, how do I get the right pour? You'll see somebody, if they turn it totally upside down, then you're not letting air flow through the filter, so it's not going to pour right. So there's some balance between, like kind of a 45-degree angle, the type of ice you're using, and that all comes together with dilution, how it pours, and so there's kind of a lot of things that you can.
There's a lot more science to it than people would think.
If you put a lot of thought into it, like I have been for the past 3 years, it gets a little nutty. I feel like I could write a PhD.
So I also have a commercial queued up from YouTube. You want me to run that?
Sure. Yeah. Is that the shaker?
Yeah.
And I'll just tell you real quick, we have a comment. I love my shaker. When I supported it on Kickstarter, I got 3. One for me, one for my BFF, and one for friends who own our local distillery. They'd never owned a shaker before. So that's one comment.
Okay, hang on 2 seconds.
Okay.
Oops, wait, please hold. That's a different one. Here we go. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I'm getting good at this.
Yeah, a lot of people might not know that we launched this on Kickstarter, and it launched in October 2019.
Wow.
So
great ice cube.
Yeah, I gotta start making homemade ice again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love honestly the fact.
Play that one more time. Can you play that one more time?
it didn't show up on the screen, by the way.
What?
It didn't?
No.
What?
Oh. Well, then you definitely have to play it again.
How the hell is it? Streamer. Share.
Come on.
Has lost permission to capture the file. Oh boy, I'm not following those steps. Sorry.
So it wouldn't work?
No, sorry, Adam. I hear.
That's okay.
Here.
We'll put it in. We'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, we'll put it in the post below. So we're gonna make a cocktail. So I represent Aperol as well as Cabo Wabo tequila, and I found a beautiful recipe that requires Aperol, tequila, fresh lime juice, and simple syrup. And you know me, I don't do simple syrups easy. This is blood orange simple syrup that I've used for the past couple times, but blood orange is why this Aperol is this color. So here we are.
Quick question.
I'm gonna ice up.
This is actually a good question for people that do not drink alcohol. The question is, will this work for chocolate milk?
Yes. Yeah. Sure. I've seen people do it with cold brew coffees.
Cold brew coffees?
Yeah, coffee, chocolate milk. Seen protein shakes, although if you probably wouldn't want to use it with the built-in strainer with a protein shake, just in case there are any chunks. It's not
right
not specifically designed for that, but yeah, chocolate milk, sure.
Okay. And then we have a gentleman, Michael, that said, you have found the perfect market for this. The home bar is ideal. I use mine and will make a double. Then I can just have one and the other one is ready to go when I'm ready.
Yeah, that's my go-to. There's a funny thing that I found about the shaker. So my home bar is in a back room and there's no TV or anything. My wife and I usually watch movies in the bedroom. And so I'll almost always make a double if we're going to watch a movie. and it fits in your back pocket. So
Right?
if you're wearing jeans, at least for me anyway, if I'm wearing jeans, I'll put it in my back pocket while I'm like holding a tray of, food or whatever else we're doing. So that's a funny thing. But yeah, with the vacuum insulation, that's really what it's for. So you can batch your drinks and make them bigger and then hold it for as long as you want. I mean, it's not going to over dilute. It's not going to melt or anything like that. So people do that. I've seen people make up drinks and then take them like camping, basically. So, go on a big drive. Whenever you get to your location, you've already got 3 drinks made up. So that's always a cool thing to see those pics come across. But
we're going on vacation in a few weeks for a week, and we'll be taking ours with us because we know whatever we put in it's going to stay ice cold.
So, So the other thing too is we've done a show where I think I had made a little bit more than normal for the 2 drinks, and
I didn't drink it.
No, and it was one of those late nights. So, and I came down the next day to grab it, and there was still ice clinking around.
Yeah.
That's
the deal.
I'm gonna put this right in here like this because it's thick.
And Rebecca says she has all these ingredients. She wishes she was home to make
Come
this drink
on,
with
Rebecca.
us right now.
Listen, Rebecca, this is awesome.
She has one.
Does she?
Yeah, she's bought 3.
No, I'm talking about this cocktail.
Oh, the cocktail.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's what? How did you say it again? It's
Chapilo.
El Chapilo cocktail. It's on the internet. You can get the. We'll put it in the comments.
Right.
So we're saying 15 seconds. That's it.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. And she just said it would be great for frothing up an iced coffee with cream.
Oh yeah.
That would be.
Well,
I never thought about iced coffee.
Dolce coffee or whatever it is.
I don't know.
The frothy stuff.
I don't know.
Espresso? I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about half the time.
Yeah.
So
I like the idea of using Aperol and tequila. I'm trying to think if I've done that before. I don't know.
Aperol is so versatile in the fact that it's got a lot. Oh, I forgot the lime.
Have you ever made a Jungle Bird?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a show. There we go.
Yeah.
We had a show
that
we called. It was and here's the thing: these glasses are humongous.
You had it.
No, it's over there.
Yeah, I prefer Aperol in my Jungle Bird over Campari. Actually,
yeah.
I'd rather do like a full ounce of Aperol than a half ounce of Campari, and it tends to just work really well with the pineapple in there.
So there's a cocktail. Oh, hello. There's a cocktail called. Hang on, I have it right here. Funny you should ask. So, my wife was awesome. She bought us these beautiful, humongous cocktail glasses.
I like a big drink.
And the thing is honestly it would have worked really well in our other glasses, but I forgot that these things are massive 20-ounce glasses.
Doesn't matter. Look how pretty they are.
It's gorgeous. So the Jungle Bird, what we were talking about, I went online and I downloaded a bunch of Aperol. It's called the Bird of Paradise.
Okay.
It's Aperol, overproof rum, pineapple juice, fresh lime, and you combine sugar. Oh, they're just basically telling you to make simple syrup.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Bird of Paradise. We can make that later.
So did you tell everybody what was in this?
Yes, we have 1.5 ounces of Cabo Wabo Reposado, a 3/4 ounce of fresh lime, 1/2 ounce of Aperol. So I doubled everything, put it in here, and simple syrup and a little bit of bitters. You can also add to this a couple dashes of Tabasco to kind of pump up the spice, but you don't really need it because I didn't do it.
All right.
Nice.
So here we go. Ready?
And try this.
Yeah.
Okay. Cheers, love you.
Cheers, love you.
Cheers.
That's our thing. Hello.
Me.
Perfect smooth.
What do you
That's a
think?
good one.
Yeah, I went a little hard on the tequila, but
Mhm.
honestly,
Woo.
the Reposado is awesome.
It is
It
good.
really makes the cocktail.
Yeah.
And honestly, not to toot my own horn, but honk honk, this blood orange simple syrup is awesome.
Very good.
So there it is.
Yeah.
Adam's gonna make a
Cheers,
drink,
guys.
right?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about what you've got coming up because, and what you had mentioned earlier with regards to the Elevator Craft Hybrid Cocktail Shaker, it was a Kickstarter. So could you explain what you did with that and explain what's coming up?
Yeah, so the shaker was launched on Kickstarter, and what Kickstarter is it allows us to take pre-orders before the manufacturing's started.
Gotcha.
But you need to get it far enough along that you know you're going to manufacture it. So you're right at the end stages, but one of the trickiest parts, especially for a startup, is to understand how many you should make, because the majority of your investment goes into that first purchase order that you order. So what Kickstarter does is, with the shaker in particular, it was, do people actually want this at all? And once they started ordering it, then I was able to, I self-financed everything to get to this point.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like, okay, cool, we can place the order. And it did really, really well. So that worked out on Kickstarter. So then fast forward to February 8th. So a couple weeks ago, we launched the hybrid cocktail glass on Kickstarter also.
That is so cool.
And
could you show that like really, really close?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Got the hybrid cocktail glass. I'll explain some of the details about it, but just to kind of top off the Kickstarter part, with this case, it was really to be able to launch it to the Elevated Craft crew, to our fans, the people that already have the shaker, and get their input as well, and find out things like, do you want it in different finishes? So we just announced that we'll do it in copper and black. So we'll have this in black steel and
we ordered some black ones.
Yeah, which is going to look really cool. But whenever it just, these things that to get the customer input before we place the order is so huge, and just to rally around it. And I'm just so thankful for the fact that we have that core group of people that love Elevated Craft as a brand, and have come together to help finance this. So it's kind of like we're doing it all together. Right. Cool. So everybody that's a backer is actually part of that story and the journey. And what they also get to see is, exactly. You guys too. So what they get to see is, what does it take to go from kind of prototype to the end product? And because there's still a lot to go. Every day I'm working on documentation with the factory to get things as high quality as possible, little dimensional things dialed in, and all kinds of little details so that it's perfect, which you guys get the behind the scenes for. And that's where the backer community comes into play. So, and the core features of the shaker, or of the hybrid cocktail glass, is that it's a vacuum insulated base. And then it's kind of like your double rocks glass, but with a bunch more features.
Okay.
So you don't need a coaster anymore, because the vacuum insulated base doesn't allow any condensation to get on the table.
Nice.
It keeps it cold, so you're never going to have a watered down drink.
Perfect.
And then we designed the measuring features. It's going to be hard to see on the video, but you can check it out on the Kickstarter. But we have measuring features built into the glass. So the idea with that is, when I have the shaker, I may want to make a complicated cocktail, like a jungle break, for example. It's not super complicated, but you can also look at Smuggler's Cove and look at the recipe that are six ingredients deep. That's where the shaker comes into play. But I didn't have something that I really loved for like a gin and tonic, or for a Negroni, and these kind of things. And so I'm all about minimizing the amount of extra steps in the process. And so built in jigger into this, and then just had to prototype to get the form down and to make something nobody's seen, so it's just a cool thing for people to rally around. But getting it to merge between being a cocktail glass but also a bar tool is where it gets really fun. Because I think where we hit a home run with the shaker is that it becomes a creative tool that makes you say, hey, what if I did try this ingredient? And that's where the Elevated Craft crew comes into play, because I feel like we're all just cocktail explorers in that.
Yeah.
We're we're not rigid. We're not saying like you have to do it this way. This is the only way to make a cocktail. And so whenever you have the shaker, you can dial in your pour, you can play with the ingredients. And I wanted that in a cocktail glass. And that's what we have here. So you can, so I'm going to make a Negroni, and that's just an ounce of gin. I got your guys's monkey shoulder.
Woohoo, Monkey 47, baby.
Monkey 47.
Yeah,
which is great, by the way. 1 ounce, and 1 ounce of these guys. And so that's one of the drinks that is perfect for this. So
basically, for a person who likes to have a cocktail or two at home,
right?
What they would do is basically they buy the Elevated Craft cocktail shaker for all of their shake and drink needs.
Yep.
And they buy the Elevated Craft cocktail glasses for the either stir or just created drinks.
Yeah, I look at it as simple craft cocktails. It's for the nights, and I talked about this a lot with my team, because it was like, well, what are we, if the shaker was all about your cocktail shaker sucks, what is this glass about when it comes to messaging? Because I designed it as sort of a kind of a gut check. Like, I want this. I've never seen glass. I've never seen a good design where glass is merged with vacuum insulation. And it seemed like an interesting engineering problem to solve. And it really was. It took a long time. But then it comes down to like, oh man, is anybody going to want to buy this? And so we had to think through that. And part of the thinking through it was, what is it not? So it's not a war on, we're not saying throw out all your glassware and, don't show a picture on the Elevated Craft crew page of a tulip glass or anything like that, or a coupe or something. Like there's appropriate glassware for each thing. But what I didn't have at home was kind of my heavy hitter glass, or the one that I was just like, if I want a gin and tonic, there's so many drinks that fall in kind of the simple cocktail category where you
one or two to three ingredient cocktails. Yeah.
Right. And I've been making really complicated cocktails for years because I wanted to test the boundaries of like the shaker, basically, and I geeked out really hard on Smuggler's Cove, and I have the Death and Co books and all the cool, the cool cocktails. And I made lots and lots of different syrups and everything. And then I get to it. I'm like, you know what I haven't experimented with? A gin and tonic. And it's like, well, that sounds pretty easy unless you use crappy tonic and you're not putting, and so I go to the crew page and I ask, like, what do you guys do? What's a good gin and tonic? And all of a sudden I realize like just the two variables by just varying the gin you use and the tonic you use.
Oh my God.
And then I find out that the garnish you use makes a huge difference.
Oh, yeah.
Too. Like, that's what this cocktail glass is for, is to get you thinking creatively and going, okay, at least I can measure it. Because you got to dial that in, at least for the gin, right? You don't want to, it's going to totally change the flavor if you over pour it.
And here's the thing too, is with regards to, and I'm sure you've experienced this in your lifetime, the bartender and they over pour you.
Right.
Now, I don't mind a strong drink, but if I'm going to go out and have a good time, give me a cocktail. Just give me a shot and mixer, and I'll pay my way and I'll enjoy myself and I'll be the life of the party. But if you double me up all the time, so really, truly, when you're making cocktails at home, measurements really make the difference.
If you want to make it a double or a triple or whatever, that's all fine. You just have to, it's better to know, right?
Right.
Back to where this all came to. And I think a lot about how I was drinking like rum and cokes, or how I used to make margaritas and whatnot. And I put myself in that position when designing the products, because that's how I think most people are, right? Is like what you see in the Elevated Craft crew page is kind of, they might start out there, but very quickly realize that, oh, I can get a bottle of Campari, I can get a bottle of green chartreuse, I can, you can get creative really quickly. So the learning curve is, isn't that steep when you're doing it at home. But when I think back to my just doing rum and cokes, I would always free pour them, and I would get a pint glass and I'd fill it with ice. Perfect. And I'd just be like, oh, I don't know. I'm free pouring it. And then at this point in my life, I just want to know, it doesn't mean that I don't overdo it sometime. Everybody doesn't, and I can do that. But I want to look at it each time and go, all right, I've had, 3 2-ounce pours, or maybe I made this is a 3-ounce pour. So I at least can keep that calculation going in my head.
Yeah.
And at this point in my life too, I have 3-year-old twins at home, so there's no room for
Very active.
hangovers when they're waking up at 6 a.m. So I think moderation is a good thing.
Sure.
That's kind of
Absolutely.
my,
And yeah,
that's where the measurements come into play in there. It's it's kind of a hidden sort of feature, but it's something I'm pretty proud of, just to give people that tool,
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Well, you eliminate a shot glass.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need
Yeah.
anything like that. It's right there everything's right inside for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and it fits the large format ice cube. So I just put a 2-inch cube in there, and
Perfect.
that it fits that. That was something we had to dial in. As far as the capacity, that was kind of a big debate and something I didn't know, but a double rocks glass or a double old fashioned glass, the range on it online might list it as like 10 to 14 ounces.
Yeah.
Whenever you're designing a cup, that's a huge range to kind of deal with. And
Yeah.
Or 20, like this one.
yeah, exactly. Well, and just trying to see like what's going to make people mad. If it's too small, like if you put a big cube in there and it overflows, that's not good.
Right.
And
Right.
so what we had to look at was, all right, well, a Negroni, is 3 ounces. So I haven't displaced a ton of the liquid with my cube, but a margarita is going to be like 6 ounces. So I need room for ice. So we chose 12 ounces as the kind of like 12 drinkable ounces. It technically goes up to like 13 at the very top, but shouldn't, that's too hard to balance anyway. So it's just, funny just geeking out on glassware. Part of the process too is we went to stores and bought a bunch of double rocks and old fashioned glasses and looked at what they said the volume was and then actually measured it. And just on the market, it's all over the place too. So it'll say 9 ounces and it'll be 13 ounces. And it's like, well, maybe there's like an extra inch at the top, or it'll say 11 and it'll be whatever. So it's tricky.
So there's zero continuity, right?
Yeah, there's zero. Yeah, exactly. So what I've got this down to is getting the glass manufacturing really refined so that we're making a really nice looking measuring cup inside of a really nice metal outside. So it is just a hybrid cocktail glass. There's nothing like it, and dialing in the engineering so that it actually is a measuring glass and it actually holds a solid 12.5 or 13 ounces has been an interesting journey. But anyway, Negroni's great though.
Well, hey, cheers.
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 Yeah, I've never had a Negroni using the Monkey 47. I hadn't tried Monkey 47, but I saw it on the Facebook group a bunch.
Yeah.
And there's gin is actually a category of spirit that I haven't dove into a lot. I have kind of your standard gins, and I tend to have 5 or 6 bottles around. I've got the home bar at home, and then I've got my studio bar here. I'm at the studio now.
Okay.
And so fortunately I can supply both bars, which is kind of a fun problem to have. So, but I just go with kind of the top hitters. Like, all right, you got, Botanist, Plymouth, Aviation, that kind of thing. And so Monkey 47 has been, it's the best I've
so
yeah, it's really nice.
The cool thing about Monkey 47 with regards to just a normal gin and tonic, the fruit that you should use is grapefruit.
Oh, nice.
It pops everything. Really, it's amazing to see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't think it would be from a lime or a lemon to a grapefruit. Totally changes.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there. I did that recently, and well, on the post actually, if you were to search on the Facebook group gin and tonic, it would probably come up, because we got, I don't know, maybe like 60 or 70 comments and people giving tips and everything, and they're like, Pear, if you're going to use this one, use rosemary as the garnish, and if you're going to use this other one, and I made a gin and tonic and I actually used grapefruit, but I don't recall which gin I used, but it actually did the opposite. It kind of threw it too bitter.
All right. Okay.
And it didn't work. But there's just that balance, and that's what I love about it. I see why people geek out on gin a lot, and that you can just get into gin and tonic. It's like, which tonic do you use?
Right.
Well, the one thing I
syrups.
Oh yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah,
One thing I found
syrup.
is I was out in California visiting Napa Valley and the wineries, and we went to this bar, and it was hot, and it's just gin and tonic weather. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
So I'm like, you know what? I haven't had a gin and tonic in a while. So the guy makes the gin or makes the cocktail, and he takes this little tiny bottle, probably about this big, pours it into the jigger, puts it in, and then grabs one of those old school like soda
Oh yeah.
soda
Soda
jars. Yeah, the
Yeah.
soda jar things, that the Three
So you-
Stooges would spray each other with.
Yeah.
And he put that in there, threw a lime in, and he handed it to me. I go, wait a second, what was in that little bottle? And he goes, oh, that's tonic syrup.
Yeah.
So they were purchasing it from a company in San Francisco that they made their own tonic syrup. It had quinine in it, and I mean,
Yeah. Right.
it was like unbelievably
Mhm.
good.
That was one of the advice I got on the crew page. Is they said like, oh, just wait until you start getting into tonic syrups. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
Right.
my head's kind of spinning because I'm like, oh, another thing to do a deep dive on.
yeah, and,
But,
and there's
I
a
kind of
lot out there too.
yeah. I basically have to build chapters of my like creative cocktail journey of like, okay, this is my gin period.
Yeah,
Let
Yeah.
me just explore this because
it's 4 chapters long.
Right.
yeah, exactly.
It's a lot to
I've
it.
been super I feel like I spent a year or so just really geeking out on rums and got into all the variations of rums, right into messing around with Smuggler's Cove.
Yeah,
And really,
Mm.
I think there's some periods where certain like understanding whenever somebody says a funky rum, they're
Yeah.
not just meaning like Jamaican music funky. It's
Right.
like
Right.
actually they're describing that it smells like overripe bananas
Yeah,
and fruits,
yeah.
and it's
I was
because
just gonna
of,
say bruised banana. Yeah,
Yeah.
right, it's because of like open fermentation and where it's at, and that it's pot stilled. So there's like a lot of things
Yeah.
that come into it.
there's
And
so
so
many variables.
Yeah, so I got to geek out on that a lot, and I still love rums, and I think
Yeah,
between
we're big rum people as well.
Yeah.
between gin,
I love the Jamaican rums. We
Mhm.
Right.
love Appleton and mostly like the 12 and the 8. We had it to 15. We tried that. That was gorgeous. They have a 21 coming out, or it's been out. But and then Ray and Nephew overproof rum is actually pretty good.
It is
by
good.
itself.
It is.
well, it's called for in a lot of the tiki drinks too.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure the exact history, but I heard that was Ray and Nephew was basically looping back into the scene as the tiki culture started to come back. So I'm not sure the ebbs and flows of all that,
Right.
but basically it's part of the funky rum culture now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a cool thing to explore. It's like I think where my rum understanding was I was like sipping on rums. I'd get to some where it's like aged rum and it'd be so good you just drink it on the rocks.
Right.
And then I realized it was basically cheating. It's like rum is so good once it's aged, like it's basically a cocktail already, right? So it's like if I'm drinking a 23-year-old rum or an 8-year-old rum or a 5-year-old rum, it's not very expensive, which is great.
Right.
If you're just
Right.
getting into if you want to geek out on a category of spirit, rum is a great one to do because you can get really old bottles for not very much.
Right. If you did that with a scotch,
Oh no, it's
23-year-old scotch, it'd be
Yeah.
hundreds.
So, but what I found was that they get to a certain level and they kind of they just all taste really good, and that's where I flipped the coin and said like, okay, well, what are these funky rums? What are the agricols? What are the rums where it's like it smells like overripe bananas but tastes like rocket fuel? Like I'm never gonna sip on it, like Ray and Nephew overproof. It's like I can't sip on it, but will I add a half an ounce to a Jungle Bird when I'm
Sure.
with somebody that knows their cocktails and they're like, oh, what's different about this? It
Yeah.
becomes
Right.
like such an interesting modifier.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's where I really love playing with those. And then mezcals too. I've geeked out on mezcals a lot lately.
There's so many variables with every category. There's so many ways to go.
Right.
And there's always someone who's going to say this is the best one. You got to have that. Well,
Yeah.
Expand your horizons and try everything,
Yeah.
because that's the reason why there's this many bottles back here, is because there's one for every taste. You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like you have to revisit things too. So you were mentioning earlier that 23 years ago or something, you tried a Negroni and you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
Right.
But now you're using Aperol and
Right.
you're using
And we
bittering.
use Campari with the Jungle Bird.
Yeah,
Right.
you're using bittering agents and so
Yeah.
that's where I love getting to these periods in my sort of cocktail knowledge, or just educating my palate and
Yep.
and getting to things where it's like, oh, you know what? Green chartreuse is an amazing modifier.
Mhm.
Like I had
We
a last
don't
word.
have one, but we need one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
We were
and
just talking about that.
Same thing with absinthe too.
Yeah.
There's-
And the thing about green chartreuse I have to warn you about is once you get it and you make a last word and then you start making the iterations on a last word, because you can use mezcal, you can use tequila, like you can change out the base spirit in it, but
Right.
the last word's a very simple build. But you'll realize that now you have to keep a bottle of green chartreuse always, and it costs like $70. So it's like,
I was gonna say it's not cheap.
Here we
And,
go.
and
Now
honestly, in our area, it's not easy to find either.
yeah.
For
Well,
some
it's like
reason.
the Monkey 47 was like, I didn't think I was in the price point to buy a bottle of expensive gin, but now I've had it. I'm like, oh man, all right, now I'm an expensive gin guy, but it's good, So
just to throw a twist in there, Monkey 47 also makes what's called a distiller's cut.
Oh yeah,
and they are usually something really. Funky is a bad word to describe it. Just really interesting. They just last year's version had a botanical called the Red Scarlet. Oh shoot, the last name is eluding me right now. But anyway, it was it looked like a flower that was growing in your mother's garden. It's just this beautiful bright red flower with these little tiny petals off the middle of it. And what they do is they take the petals and they dry them, and what happens is it gives it this like punch of heat, and it's almost like a hibiscus type thing, and but it doesn't give you the color. It was really
whenever I said
it's really, really cool.
And that's in the new.
But that's in the distiller's cut of Monkey 47.
Okay.
They make one every year, and usually they're only 375s. And the 375s, they're probably like $75.
Wow. Yeah.
But if you're really into gin,
right,
there you go.
Right.
And there's some people on the crew that are super into gin, and that's where I look at it from the standpoint. Let's say several years ago, I would have been like, gin, isn't that flavored vodka? Going to some distilleries and kind of just seeing it, and it's easy to sort of have that attitude about it. And now I don't have that attitude about any spirit at all. It's like a lot of people like this.
Yeah.
I should probably figure out why.
Right.
Just from it's a interesting thing. I'm trying to educate my palate and understand the different nuances of it, because I don't think I was born with any kind of like quality palate or anything like that, right? It's a training thing.
It'll grow on you.
Yeah, they grow on you, but I also I can, flavor is so subjective, and it has to do with what you drank a few minutes earlier and what you ate and everything else, right? Yeah. And a couple of years ago, I might taste gin. I'm just like, it's pretty much all. It's gin. It's fine. Like I can typically taste bad stuff because you can taste the bad parts of the alcohol, right? If you get like a really bad bourbon, it's pretty easy to understand where that's at. But with gin, it kind of felt like the juniper overdid it, and now I'm starting to refine that down. And whenever I got the Monkey 47, I picked up a bottle of Japanese gin also, and I can't quite remember the name. It's
Haiku, maybe?
No, it's a something 134 or 132. Okay. I put it on the crew page, but it has some kind of pepper in it.
Okay.
And it's so strange because it doesn't taste spicy in the way that what is it? Hancho or the Reyes, the green.
Ancho Reyes, yeah.
Ancho Reyes. It doesn't taste spicy in that way, but it has like a pepperiness to it that afterwards you feel like you ate something spicy, but not that it's burning your mouth. You know, it's just,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like a
funny.
strange thing. Yeah, it's like a strange combination. It's like,
Probably like a
oh,
white pepper.
okay, I could see that being used in something that you're sort of pairing with dinner or something like that. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
you kind of start to geek out on these different flavors. But so I guess I'm starting to understand why people have gin collections, or why,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
also
yeah.
why gin is often sold in the liter bottles, because it does go quick. If like if you're making a gin and tonic, it's like, geez.
Yeah, where to go?
Well,
Yeah.
we just made a drink recently with that one with the elderflower.
Yeah, with Saint Germain.
Saint Germain.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean,
It was called Part and Parcel.
Yep, the part and parcel.
You
And
should try that one. That was really good.
Yeah, that was really good. And it's like you said, the craft crew, they come up with some really awesome stuff. I
And
mean,
the other thing too about them is they're really actually supportive of each other, and
yeah.
there's not like, oh, you shouldn't do that.
Right.
You know?
No,
Yeah.
it's somebody puts a drink up and everybody's like, never would have thought of that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah. I really love the supportive community that we built there, because that's
it's
really
cool.
important to me. That, you know, I don't want to make an elitist kind of thing. Like the shaker is a fairly expensive item, but it's expensive to make. You know, there's a lot of things that stack up on that.
Sure.
But it's not pretentious, right? That's
No.
not
Right.
where I ever want that to be. And so it's the same with these ingredients. It's like paying $70 for a bottle of green chartreuse. So there's a lot of people that will never do that, and that's okay.
Sure.
But there's also, you know, a lot of drinks that you can make with a bottle of tequila, you know, pretty simple stuff.
Right.
And I thought it was really interesting, because it was it National Margarita Day or something like?
Oh,
on
yeah.
Thanksgiving?
It was on Tuesday.
These things sneak up on me there's so many holidays, but there were so many margarita posts, and the type of post that I really see that, you know, we've built a supportive culture is whenever somebody posts like, hey, this is the recipe I've been making at home, and it's okay, but what can I do different about it?
Sure.
Or, you know, some of my friends say it's way too strong. Am I doing something different? And you think it's just a simple margarita, and like you could if you were in a bad mood or something, you might be like, oh, just Google it. Like, what? It's a margarita. But actually, like, people had a lot of great constructive things to say. And, you know, and that person can now dial in their recipe to their taste. And ultimately, it's up to them. If they want to do a 3-ounce pour of reposado tequila and something, you know, that's up to them.
Just a little addition of simple syrup.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and make your own if you
Absolutely.
can.
Yeah.
If you can make your own simple syrup, it makes it's such a huge difference in taste.
You could do so much flavor profile wise with and changing the cocktails with just the way you produce simple syrup.
Right.
And the other thing too is, you know, we're talking about how, you know, you walk in, sometimes you see these cocktails and it's got, you know, 6 ingredients and you're like, oh, that sounds awesome, I'm gonna go make it. And you go to the store, you're like, whoa, that's $60 and that's $40 and that's
Mhm.
39, you know. So that's why, if you look, this is a 375 of Aperol.
I also have a great tip for this, which I don't know if the liquor peeps would appreciate it, but if you have friends that are into cocktails, I love sharing with my friends. I didn't realize how, you know, you can order little I don't think I have one around, but little glass bottles, like the let's see, either 375, but a smaller glass bottles, and I'll get something strange, my friend will get something strange, and we'll just split the bottle.
Yeah.
They do that in the bourbon community. They call it a handshake.
Oh, okay.
They'll give you like, they'll say like, all right, so they'll give you this much of, you know, something real, like, here's a handshake of Pappy Van Winkle, whatever, you know. And
well, I really like it for things that we know we're not going to use a lot of. So like St. Elizabeth Allspice Dram. You buy a bottle, you're going to have it for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you use like a bar spoon and it affects the entire drink. So that's a perfect one to split with somebody.
Sure.
And like that one's not terribly expensive, but you know, going in on things, and that's also part of why I think cocktails can be a hobby, and what we've found with the crew page and just with, you know, with the shaker and everything, is getting people involved in this at home making drinks at home, but doing it through the lens of experimentation. And
Sure.
it's
Try
not
this,
necessarily about
Yeah.
mastery. Like, I think the peak of my cocktail mastery is to build a menu at home, like maybe a seasonal rotational menu at home that I have the cocktails listed out. It's like, here's the 6 cocktails you can order. But, other than that, it's like, I'm not trying to aspire to work at a top bar or something. So you can always be experimenting. And that's,
Sure.
that's a fun place to be. So sharing a bottle has helped out. And then the other thing that I realized that I could share was I bought little 2-ounce droplets of little dropper bottles,
Yeah.
and we could split bitters.
Yeah.
Because bitters
Yeah.
are expensive, but bitters are pretty amazing thing to mess around with. And so I had a stash of bitters here at the office, and I was able to dose them out so that I could share them with my employees and share them at home and everything else. So it made it where I took this little stash of bitters, and now I feel like it's in better use than just having it,
Yeah, then I have it sitting around.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
So I've been since we've been doing our show, I've been experimenting with, like the simple syrup stuff, and I just recently put together, or I'm in the process of making, instead of limoncello, I'm making blood orange cello.
Okay.
It's a concoction I'm kind of putting together. So I said to Patty one time, I'm like, listen, I got a good idea. I'm going to start making bitters. So that's why I bought these beautiful little fancy glasses, or bottles.
I've thought about it too.
And then I started reading on how to make it and how long it takes. And I'm like, yeah, probably gonna buy it.
Yeah. I've thought about it's like, when I retire, I think I just want to be a professional hobbyist. I'll like go through a period. I'm like, this summer I'm going to learn all about bitters, and next summer I'm going to learn all about charcuterie. I'll make my own salami. Like that's like
the salami flowers for everybody.
Yeah, the dream for me. Me and my wife will get a goat farm. We'll make our own charcuterie. She'll have her hobbies.
And listen, don't underestimate the whole goat video market.
Yeah, it's just screaming goats. Is that?
Yeah, those things are hilarious.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
Yeah, I gotta say. So we're very excited. So, quick question with regards to the elevated craft cocktail glass. When will you start production to people start seeing them in their homes and in their hands?
Yeah, so we started production already. It's now tuning the molds and things. So what's interesting, I've been on calls in the evenings with our factory, and I just sent them a new report. But so we've went from we have one glass mold that can make that can get our sort of pilot production run, and now we're making 20. So they're just dialing it up, and each of those stages we have to check the samples and all that stuff. But the projected time that I put out on Kickstarter is June. So this will be a summer product. We'll get it over here and we'll celebrate with all the summer cocktails, right? That's where the gin and tonic comes into play. Everybody will be thirsty, and
that's when all the fresh fruit comes around, and you start throwing stuff in infusion jars. And
and to kind of put that into perspective with the shaker, we launched in October 2019 and didn't realize that a pandemic was coming.
Right.
And closed down all the factories and closed down all the shipping and all that stuff. And so we started shipping around a year later, and people stuck with us because they loved it. And I think, there's no getting to see the behind the scenes of what it takes to start a business and launch a product and all that stuff. It's kind of like, like reality TV or something. You get to hear the behind the scenes things that are going on. And in the case of the glass, it's way smoother than the shaker because we started during the pandemic. So now I know how to manage the supply chain at the point where it's like, well, what happens if a factory gets closed down for a month? Okay, well, you build this into the timeline and you kind of figure some of this stuff out. So in this case, I don't expect any delays, but it was such an interesting time to launch a shaker, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, factories are closed? What is this? Because at the time, factories are being affected, and in the US we weren't really doing all that much, and it just has this long tail effect. So So now we're at a much better place. So yeah, I think June we'll get them. I was just talking to my team today about maybe doing a party here at the studio. We're in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, perfect.
Like,
Nice.
if we can have Arizona people come and pick up their product, like that would be really cool.
That
Sure,
would be
yeah.
awesome.
Have a cocktail party.
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
almost like a bottle release type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be
And I just
cool.
we really haven't done any kind of social gatherings, but that's something I've been wanting to get more into as
Yeah.
having the twins at home and everything. Having the twins at home with the pandemic and everything else. I've talked to my wife about this. Like, what would the business look like 4 years ago with no pandemic and no kids? Like, I probably would have made a lot different decisions. Like, we'd buy a van and be on the road. I'd be like, honey, we're going around
Elevator
to
Craft Band came to town.
we gotta go support Elevated Craft with our shaker and go on the road and stuff. It's like, well, you don't do that now. Now I'm kind of a homebody.
Yeah, you guys be like the Grateful Dead, right?
We haven't gone on tour yet, but we'll get the band back together maybe.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the thing is, and like I said, I can't say enough how great the shaker is, and
Can't wait for the
everything I shake
glasses.
is in it, and the glasses are going to make it even better. So
Yep, absolutely.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to be on the journey, and I really appreciate you all loving the shaker and getting it out there too. It's like,
Oh,
I think
our pleasure. Thank
the magic
you.
yeah,
that
it's almost like that toy that you pull the string, and it says that one thing all the time. That's how I am with the shaker.
nice.
And it's one of those things, and we've been talking about it for so long since we got it on the shows and everything. And I get a message from a friend of mine, and she says, I'm getting my husband one of those shakers because he keeps talking about it.
Nice.
And I'm like, that's what we're saying. Hey, listen, slowly but surely we're gonna get in your brain. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, I think it's I'm just super thankful to have people like you guys and the Elevated Craft crew, and just the fact that we can build sort of a fan base around a product is really the dream. Whenever I thought about this, and I started designing it, I think in 2017 or 16 or something like that. It was a couple years before it launched, and it was like, well, what is the risk and what does success look like? And part of it was like, I was pretty confident that I could get it through manufacturing and get the product out there, but then it might just like go on Amazon and kind of disappear with all the 20,000 other things.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if we can actually rally people around understanding that we created a tool for them to get creative with cocktails,
Right.
then that's where the magic comes into play. And so it's not about just like, is it better than a cobbler shaker or whatnot? Like, that's the first sort of thing to get over, right? And that's where that Sheldon on the video
Conversation starter too.
Yeah, well, that's where Sheldon on the video magically saying your cocktail shaker sucks. But the aspect of building a whole fan base around it is really because people start to understand that there's creative things that you can do with it.
Yeah.
And so the best comment I think I've ever seen is somebody on the Facebook group. I think it's somebody that hadn't bought yet, but they're like, hey, should I really buy it? And somebody else commented like, well, just know that half the value is the community around it. So
that's cool.
Don't worry about it. I don't know if they said there was some comment like, is it worth the money or something like that? And the person commented that half the value was the community. And it's like,
wow.
Amen.
That's awesome.
It is for me too.
If anybody has any questions either for Adam, just hop on right now and just ask on these comments. So we do have a friend of ours who said that he just heard that you were in Scottsdale, right? That's where you said that? Okay, so he said you need to take a short drive from Scottsdale to Mesa to Alicia's Trattoria. You heard of that?
Alicia's
Trattoria. It will be the best meal you've ever had. Trattoria. It will be the best meal you've ever had. And they have a huge high-end wine bar and cocktail area.
Nice.
The gentleman that owns it is a mutual friend of ours, actually.
Oh, cool.
John Carr owns it.
Gotcha.
Yep. And they have outstanding food. So take a drive over, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
tell him we sent
sounds
you.
like a date night.
Might throw you out.
Yeah, right. Tell Matt
No,
Bay
he's
Clark
he's
sent
a
ya.
great guy, and it's
And friends of ours, Chris and Brian, say hi.
yeah.
Nice.
The cool thing too is like you said though that I don't know if it's a word, but it's going to be today. The unpretentiousness of the elevated crew and the actual shaker itself
Right.
allows you to be creative as far as what you're going to put in it and how and the quality of the cocktail coming out for me is immeasurable as far as how cold it is and just how I mean, for lack of a better term, how perfectly shaken it is.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, and the elevated crew is one of those things where that's worth its weight in gold too.
Yeah. There's some magic there, and I think whenever people first join, it's kind of like, I had somebody message me recently that's like, I didn't even know people were still going on Facebook, and I really have to say, like, I didn't either, but private groups are actually pretty cool. So that's it's like if you get into a private group, there's some cool stuff that can happen, and so you don't have to just be scrolling through your feed aimlessly.
Right.
Yeah, it's like
I jump into the crew and I'll use the search function. I'll look up like Monkey 47, see what people have made with that, and we'll have conversations around it. And it's really cool. And even if there is, there's some people in there that are doing some amazing things where it's like their hobby might be garnishes.
Yeah.
They've gotten to that point where it's like they get to the garnishes and they are so beautiful.
Yeah.
But then you see the comments below that, and they're so helpful at explaining it because somebody wants to know, like, how did you make that? You melted sugar and it became a 3D object and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just so cool that people are taking their time to help, educate. And it doesn't come from that position of like, no, this is my secret because I'm selling it at a bar, I'm putting it in a book or something like that. It's like, it's really just people going, I just figured this out and it's pretty cool. So, you should check it out.
Home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, I think
that's awesome.
Questions. I know, right?
Well, listen, we can't thank you enough for coming out and enjoying us joining us for the and probably enjoying us. You might have enjoyed it. I don't know. It's not, you're on the fence. I get it. We're an acquired taste. But we really appreciate you coming on. And and the cool thing is I emailed your brother and he's going to give us a shaker to give away. So
nice.
We're kind of late in the game to do it today, but our next show we will definitely do that.
Cool.
So I will tag everybody. Well, everybody in the crew probably already has one, except for that one guy that wondered if it was worth it or not. So, but we'll do a contest and we'll figure out something. Maybe somebody can make a cool, not so St. Patrick's Day cocktail or something like that. I don't know.
Coming up. Yep.
And then Michael said that he was saying that it must be nightmarish getting all those little details sorted out so everything is just right with all of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the answer to that question.
Yeah.
I think we got on here right.
Nightmare. Yes.
5 minutes before we got on, I was buttoning up the details on basically a quality control document to go back to the factory and say, okay, answer all these questions. I mean, there's a reason it's a full-time job, right? It looks easy on the front. I feel like
if it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
For sure.
Yeah. The old analogy of the duck, where the duck's floating along the top of the surface, but underneath they're like paddling like crazy.
Paddling like
that's
paddling
how I
to
feel.
life,
All the paddling's happening up here, but yeah.
Hey, listen, like I said, can't thank you enough for coming on. We truly appreciate it. And we truly appreciate folks from the Elevator crew if they were able to check out the show. This will also be on YouTube to see
with the Clark's
on
page.
a couple drinks with the Clark's page
and for the great product.
Yeah,
we
so we will once we put it on Facebook, I will add in some graphics so you can check that stuff out that should have been up.
Right.
And one of the graphics is fake, just because I wanted to do this. It was like our name, couple drinks of Clark's with your picture, your name, then the Elevator Craft cocktail glasses, and it was the silver, the black, and the copper, and our face, our emoji logos were in the middle of the black one.
Yeah.
Of course they were.
Because I logo everything. So
Nice.
so I was gonna put that up there. Not available in stores.
Yeah. Well, we've got. I think
Before we go too, now you they are available on Amazon.
the shaker is
The
Amazon.
shaker is, and
Best-
what other store do you have it? You have it. I think I thought I saw you had it in some store.
Right on it, right on your Facebook page too. There's links, right?
Yeah. So best place is elevatedcraft.com.
Right.
Absolutely.
Will be
And we'll
the,
have a link for that too.
Yep. Elevatedcraft.com is good. And then we're not in any physical stores yet, but I think we will be this year. So
Okay.
there's some different stores. So I'm hoping to have that set up so that whenever people do want to get one the same day, they can go out. So we're talking to some people next month. So hopefully that'll go out. But yeah, the elevatedcraft.com's best case scenario.
Okay.
If you need one in a pinch really quick, Amazon's next best, but we do have some volume discounts on the website. So for
Right.
people that are
Yep.
buying as gifts, getting 2 is a discounted price over 1, and that kind of
Right.
thing. So there's some advantages there.
Right. And also too, and I learned this from the Kickstarter for the cocktail glasses, is if you go on and you or pre-order your cocktail glasses,
Right.
you can get an Elevated Craft cocktail shaker at a discounted rate.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's an add-ons function to it that's kind of a nice little Easter egg. So we've just let it out of the bag, but that's okay. So basically,
Oh,
you
I'm
go
sorry.
on and you select whether you want one hybrid cocktail glass or 2 or whatnot, and then once you're on the next page, you can select if you want to add a shaker, or we've got nice handmade cutting boards that we have, the garnish boards, which are they're made in Portland, Oregon, handmade.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we got some nice goodies back there, but the Kickstarter, I'm sure it comes up if anybody goes in there and looks up Elevated Craft, but that's got, I think, 13 days left or so
Okay.
for that. And
it's doing really well.
doing well. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're at over 600K as
Awesome.
of today. And
Good.
we placed our production order already and moving through
Right.
the factory stuff. So yeah, now it's just about just trying to predict how many to order, how
Right.
many to get in and everything. So yeah, it's going great.
Well, I can't.
for
I
you.
can't say that enough. That we're very excited for it, and we're happy for you that it's going as well as it is. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
you're a good guy, and we've talked before, and your brother's pretty decent guy as well. And listen, you guys, we wish you the best of luck
Yeah,
with your new. Now,
for sure.
now, what is the actual term for the glasses? It's the
Hybrid cocktail glass
hybrid cocktail
Hybrid
glass
cocktail
by
glass.
Elevated Craft.
by Elevated Craft. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I love
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Cool. I just want to make sure I got it right.
We looking at it as if this will be something we'll survey the community, but it's like hybrid drinkware is a category that I think we can design more in. So we've already done prototypes, not metal prototypes, but for beer and wine.
Oh, cool.
And one of the key features that we talk about on the page is that you can get multiples of the glass inserts. So right
Yeah.
now on the Kickstarters, if you get 2 of the glasses, we throw in a free extra glass insert.
Yeah.
Because I started realizing I could stash these in the freezer. And so instead of
Right.
having your chilled coupe or whatever in the freezer, you can stash these in and put it in, which is great for cocktails. But also, if you think about for beer, it's like, who doesn't want to have a cold pint in the
100%
beer in the
Right.
freezer? And in that case, whenever you put a cold pint in the freezer, now you've got it, it's leaking all over the table and it's freezing your hand and all that stuff. So we can actually lock in that coldness if we come out with the beer one. So that's something
Awesome.
I'll be talking to the community about pretty soon.
More sleepless nights, right?
Love that.
Yeah. But
And
And I love the fact that there's no condensation. on the outside of
in
them.
and out. So like I'm about to make a gin and tonic, and I'll just swap this insert out and do it right in this other one.
Awesome.
So it's
Gotcha.
a cool little thing.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the Elevated Craft cocktail hybrid shaker. You can fit a whole 750 of wine in there.
Right.
Right.
That's
Wow.
one of those fun.
Good to know.
I know. It's a fun thing. It's like I only tell people the things that I actually do myself. Right.
Yeah.
So like I've I will chill a bottle of rosé or something if we'll go on a vacation to California or something, and I'll chill it and I'll pour the whole thing in the cocktail shaker, put it in a backpack, and then you're serving out of that, which is it works fine.
Ingenuity, buddy.
It's like, oh, I can't wait to go on vacation.
I know.
A whole bottle of wine will fit in here.
Yeah. So
I am so happy right now.
throw it in the fridge, and then you just take off the small top
Take
and
off the
pour
top
it through
and then
that.
put a straw in. You're done.
Yeah, take off the small top, pour it through that, and then whenever you get your hybrid cocktail glasses, be able to serve it up in those.
Perfect.
But it does make a good transport vessel. It's a fun.
It's a win-win.
I am so happy right now.
I knew you would.
Next to the details that the person mentioned about obsessing about, that was whenever I first designed it, and it was like, I think it was, I don't know, 20, the total volume was under 750. So it's like, I got to adjust everything because it just felt like a cool little feature that's like hardly anybody's going to use. But then if you do use it, you're like, well, that was pretty cool.
If you made it and it was 720,
yeah,
people would
exactly.
be so upset.
Oh, yeah.
Almost holds a bottle of 750.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, so.
That's great. Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Had a couple of drinks with the Clarks.
Thanks, Adam.
And we truly appreciate it.
And best of luck to
Absolutely.
you and
We
all
wish you
your
the best
future ventures.
And hey, listen, feel free to come on our show anytime you want to talk about stuff.
All
You want to talk about some booze? You want to geek out on rums or gins or vodkas or bourbons or chartreuse, whatever.
You guys, let me know when you make your first last word.
We will.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
for sure.
And the thing is, I got to find it, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Good luck.
All right,
everybody. Thanks so much,
care.
folks. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Keep an eye out. We are going to do another show very soon, probably 2 for Tuesday next week, where we will give away a Elevated Craft cocktail shaker, courtesy of our friend Adam Kraft
and Mark
Kraft.
That's right.
Mark makes things happen as well.
Mark was trying to get through us on an email here because I think he couldn't get through on I think he was trying to get in on it with us, but it wasn't working.
I
So
couldn't send him a thing. Well, all right. Well, anyway, we'll have Mark on next time.
All right.
Adam, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
We're gonna, if you don't mind, we're gonna play a 30-second song out. You can take off if you want. If you're not, you want to just listen and whistle along with our show song.
And it all sounds like it's gonna go well, but I'm usually the one that's to do it, and I never get it right. So here we go. Yep, there's the end.
So here.
I'm awful. There we go.
There we go.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks,
Adam.
Guys.
So much. Take it easy.
Have a good night.
Thanks to the crew, and thanks to a couple of drinks for the Clarks. See you later.
Have a good night. Well, there's some people who are hanging in for the song. God bless you, folks.
Thanks for hanging with us. Awesome show tonight. Hope you all learned a lot. We sure did.
Cheers. Love you.
Love you. Good night, everybody. As soon as Matt goes over and shuts her down. Shut her down.